I think it's a real interesting report about how a lot of Cadillac dealers, about 150, are exiting the relationship with Cadillac and accepting buyouts because they don't want to go with Cadillac's plans to go into the electric car market. So Cadillac basically came to them with a deal and said, look, you either need to invest in upgrades to sell electric Cadillac cars, about 200 grand for most dealerships, or we're gonna give you a buyout. And apparently the buyouts range between 300 grand and $1 million, so pretty significant. And 17% of Cadillac's 880 US dealerships took that buyout. Now, a lot of them have other GMC brands. Cadillac's part of GMC, like Chevy, Buick, GMC, etc. But it still is interesting that that many decided to part ways with the Cadillac brand. And, you know, the article, which is a Wall Street Journal article, says that, you know, a lot of the reason was that they just don't buy into the whole electric car that they're gonna take over. And electric car sales are about 2% of the market right now, but you know, that is growing in certain markets. You know, California is moving towards electric only by, I think, 2027, although that's the current governor proposing to do something when he's no longer around and won't have to enforce it. So we'll see if that actually works out. But it's obviously, you know, a shot at a lot of the car manufacturers are looking at what Tesla is doing and saying, hey, that's the way we think things are going. So, you know, we're going to dip our toes at least in that market and see if we can, you know, go ahead and make something happen. So it's interesting that Cadillac is saying to its dealers, you have to sell electric cars, you know, and you have to make upgrades in order to do it. And what was interesting too is, you know, I didn't realize that electric cars, it would really change the model at dealerships, because where dealerships make a lot of their money is in the service and repairs, and electric cars don't need the same. They don't have, I guess, the same, you know, amount of moving parts, and you know, they're not going to generate the same just general service and repair bills that dealerships are used to. And they think there's other ways that you know, electric car dealerships are gonna make additional revenue, probably in the you know, leasing out charging stations and things like that. But it's a completely different business model. And I think a lot of the car dealerships just said, you know, man, we want to stay with the traditional gas model, and we don't want to kind of bet the house on getting into this, and certainly not to the extent of doing 200 grand in upgrades, and we're not going to sell that many cars in the near future. So, you know, very interesting. Remains to be seen if electric cars take over the world, but Cadillac is certainly betting that they are, because they're jumping into that space, and it sounds like they're trying to force their dealers to go along with it. So we'll see if that becomes more of a trend. You know, Tesla is certainly still a juggernaut in that market, but you know, the big players are starting to jump in, and they're betting that electric cars are going to be the wave of the future. And if they're right, you know, they do have the scale right now, whereas Tesla has a great idea and they have a lot of demand, but you know, they aren't profitable at this point. So we'll see if the big car companies, you know, if they are able to take over that electric market, should it eventually come to fruition. So we'll see. But very interesting that a lot of Cadillac dealers are kind of exiting as it stands right now.